Welcome to Have a Life Teaching, the podcast designed for educators who are dedicated to enhancing their teaching practice and creating a positive impact on their students' lives. In each episode, we'll dive deep into the world of education, exploring a wide range of topics related to curriculum, instruction, and assessment in K-12 schools. Together, we'll learn from the brightest minds in the education field. So if you're a passionate educator who's ready to take your teaching practice to the next level, join us as we explore the exciting world of education. My name is John Schembari, signing in and saying, let's have a life teaching. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Have a Life Teaching podcast. As my listeners know, we've had a number of shows and we've had a number of conversations with experts talking about how to use AI, particularly to create just-in-time resources so we can differentiate the learning for our students so our students can meet the learning objectives that we have set for the day. We've also spoken with Dr. Mary Beth Edmonds about her experience in walking educators through supporting neurodivergent students, particularly students with autism. And so today we are going to continue this theme by combining these two topics, talking about how we can be continuing to use AI to improve the classroom teaching and learning in our K-12 classrooms, and also how AI connects to helping neurodivergent students, not just autistic students, but students with dyslexia, ADHD, and a number of other conditions to thrive. Because as many educators know, we still probably could do a better job when it comes to servicing the needs of our neurodivergent students who have traditionally struggled in a very structured school environment. So how can AI support our neurodivergent students to thrive? And with this in mind, I'm really excited to have our next guest joining us, Derek Crager. Derek is the CEO and founder of Practical AI. He is an AI strategist, and he has a personal connection to neurodiversity and neurodivergent students, which we are obviously going to talk about in the show. So Derek, thank you so much for joining us today.
John, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. Have a Life Teaching is, you have a good purpose, and hopefully I can provide some value today.
I'm sure you can, and I'm glad to have you on the show. Two very important topics combined in one: AI and meeting the needs of all of our students, particularly our neurodiverse students. And you also remind me that at some point I probably should have a show on talking about our neurodivergent teachers and educators, because clearly we are trying to prepare our neurodivergent students for the world of work, and supporting our neurodivergent learners shouldn't end just with their learning. I think we'll have to have you on for a second show to talk about that. Again, Derek, thank you for being on the show. So before we even get started, could you walk us through how did using AI to support neurodivergent learners become your area of interest? And what prompted you to create your organization, Practical AI?
Oh, certainly. If I go back to my childhood, I was one of those that didn't have friends. I grew up out in the country and I was the odd duck. I was quiet. After high school, I tried to go to college and trade school at the same time as I lived on my own. And I ended up staying in trade school and following up that, had a blue collar life growing up, worked in industrial construction for a bit, went into automotive manufacturing for about 15 years, had my own company for about 10 years that I built to the largest of its size in my home state of Indiana. And then I got back into working corporate after that. And through these transitions, I went from turning a wrench to engineering roles to process engineer into learning roles. So the last three companies I was with were actually learning roles that I would teach people how to do whatever those things are. The feather in my cap is my last role at Amazon. I built the most successful training program, employee training program in Amazon history with a NPS score of 92 for anybody out there that's a statistics person. But through all of this, and the reason I started so far back, I had a lot of time on my hands to have my own hobbies. So I got into technology at an early age. I was programming on a TI-99 4A computer that we hooked to a Ray-tube television and did some things there. And then as technology grew, the internet came around and became public in 1989, although I know a lot of our listeners might not even been born then. But I was online selling as a retail store by 1990, and the internet, the HTTP protocol really hadn't even been certified yet. So we're still doing a Gopher protocol. Anyway, I had some success. I sold products on 5 different continents, t-shirts and hats and all that. But then I closed down in 1993 because I thought I'd saturated the market. I was so ignorant to technology that I just thought, oh, I have my fun. Only nerds and geeks are going to get online. So I closed it down. And I mentioned that because now we're here at AI. AI is another wave of technology. And this wave of technology, it's to serve information. I think it's all been about to serve information. If we go back to the Gutenberg press, it was to serve information, to scale what we have. We can only write so much, and we were limited on paper and ink and skill sets. So the Gutenberg that was probably the first technology wave, if we go back far enough, to share information on a grand scale. The internet came around in the 90s and did the same thing. It propagated this information, and it gave us a platform to iterate across the globe with others like us. So here we are today with AI. It's another wave that is giving us a tool, just like the internet's a tool, the Gutenberg press is a tool. AI is a tool that we can use out of our toolbox that allows us to disseminate information. And where the internet allowed us to connect with others like us and those not like us around the globe and have conversations and grow and develop without being in the same room, AI today gives us that ability to soundboard with ourselves, to ask ourselves questions, and we can have AI access the global knowledge database, which may or may not be accurate. We can talk on that later if you want, or we can focus it on just our own knowledge, and we can essentially write a diary into our AI and talk to ourselves. And who is a better sounding board than ourselves? Imagine looking back in history, if we had Albert Einstein or a Nikola Tesla, if there was 2 of them in the same room, how much more could they accomplish? As successful as they were, maybe they were successful because both of them were said to be neurodivergent themselves. Maybe that was one of their neurodivergent superpowers, was to be able to talk to themselves. So imagine today, John, if everybody in the world, and since this is a K through 12 program, imagine every student having the opportunity to pull out a telephone and talk to a tutor about any topic. And whether they're calling you or me or maybe Nikola Tesla, and just ask any question and go down to any rabbit hole. How cool would that be?
That would be awesome. And in fact, you lead right into my next question, Derek, which is, why is talking to yourself and using AI then such a powerful tool for neurodivergent students in particular?
To be honest, I think, now, first of all, we can't define neurodivergent as the same. Okay, we're just in the category, and growing up with the cartoons on TV and the claymations, my mind goes to the land of misfit toys. I felt like I grew up on the land of misfit toys, and all the toys are different, right? And so we are all different. Nancy Doyle, outside of London, England, came up with this thing called the spiky profile, where it says normative people that are statistically average on a skill set fall right through the middle. But the neurodivergent, by definition, is we might be high up here and low here, and another individual that's neurodivergent could have those reversed. It could be high and low, but we are the extremes. We're definitely the extremes. The connection and the value for AI with neurodivergence is twofold. Sometimes we get so deep into the weeds or into the rabbit hole that we can't come up for air and we lose track. And sometimes we get lost in the real world. Other times we are at a high level and we can't look at details. And if we can't look at the details, we get stuck and we can't produce. And then we feel like we're just no traction. So what I'm saying is we're either all or nothing, one way or the other. So the way AI helps in that conversation with ourselves is that if we're up here at the 50,000-foot view and we need details, we can just tap right into AI and ask ourselves, all right, if I was going to get into the nitty gritty, into the weeds on this, what are the details or what are the 5 bullet points that I should be focused on? And it helps level out. It takes the high and the low and it gives us that norm perspective. How best to learn from somebody than somebody the direct opposite? And we are so many times at odds with ourselves that I think sometimes we are the best conversationalists. Let's face it, those of us that grew up with minimal friends and kind of like on the outside on the spectrum, we're kind of used to getting by on our own anyway. So it's nice to have a response to actual conversation that is not imaginary like it was when we were children.
And I noticed that you're using the word we a lot, and that is because, and I don't think I'm disclosing anything here that you haven't talked about, but if so, I'll cut it out. And that is you were diagnosed yourself as being neurodivergent rather late in life, correct?
I was, John. Yeah. I grew up, if I go back to my childhood, my parents, grandparents, nobody was educated beyond high school. A lot of them didn't make it through high school. For me, even to attend college, even though I actually did not finish, even to attend college was different. And being different in a family that is lacks the education is tough. There's a high rate of autism on my dad's side of the family, and also, unfortunately, a high rate of suicide. So I think that really is derived from having nobody to talk to. Now that we can talk to ourselves and learn, I'm more at ease with it. And my storyline, I was age 50 when I was diagnosed. I suspected for about 10 years that I knew I was different. I just didn't accept that I was different. I was diagnosed at age 50, and I was just about 3 months into my time at Amazon. And so when I was diagnosed as autistic, ADHD, and dyslexic, I cried for 2 weeks. It wasn't so much out of pain as much as it was clarity, because those of us that are on the spectrum, a lot of us have an affinity for numbers and black, white, ones and zeros, no gray areas. So now that I was defined by culture as to be put in a box, now I could embrace that and move forward. And that's exactly what I did at Amazon. And I really believe the empathy that I have from being autistic, there's extra empathy in our people, I believe, here. I embraced my autism and my differences, and I didn't hide it. I shared at the bottom of my email. I said, hey, I'm different. I'm autistic, dyslexic, ADHD. If something doesn't come across clear, just tap me on the shoulder, virtual or in person, and we'll straighten it all up. And that is something that never existed pre-diagnosis, because pre-diagnosis, hey, I'm just not connecting. Sorry, Mr. Crager. We just don't think you're a fit with this culture. And I'm like, I'm the most passionate person here, but I can't express that. Thank you for asking, John. It was a transitional moment. And I'm 58 now. And I feel like I'm an adult for the first time by having the diagnosis and being able to accept that.
I'm sorry that your family has struggled with the negative aspects of what can happen when one is neurodivergent but doesn't have those resources, both personal and professional. But yet, in a way, I'm glad that you mentioned it, because I can imagine, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, that feeling that disconnect yourself gives you more of a visceral understanding of how AI can indeed help neurodivergent learners to talk to themselves and to get that dialogue going with ourselves if there aren't others that neurodivergent people feel that they could talk to. And so I see a through line, obviously, between your experiences viscerally how you know what neurodivergent, and like you said, no neurodivergent person is the same, but in general, how AI can support them. And then this leads me to this next question, which is your company, Practical AI, how does it help neurodivergent learners such as yourself to use AI?
Okay, there's two layers to this. So one, the professional side, my company builds solutions that enables companies, managers, employees to phone a friend. So if I had somebody when I was 10 years old to call and talk through my problems with, I would have been a more happy child. If I'm on the job and I'm new and I'm trying to figure things out, it'd be great to have being able to phone somebody and say, hey, I'm having a rough day. Can you talk me through this or walk me through this? And so on the professional side, we have products that speak to onboarding new employees, training employees into specific skill sets. And we also have an HR product that allows people just to talk and vent on that side. I have an AI for autistics.com program that I fund. There's no cost for any participation. And I invite people of all ages, whether you're diagnosed or not diagnosed, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to draw the line there, but just to come on and join the community. And we talk about AI and helping us as individuals, but we have a specific goal, and that's to use AI to enable individuals to create jobs for themselves. We've heard about the gig economy for a decade now. But because a lot of us that are neurodivergent have trouble holding roles and we have an affinity for technology, I'm able to teach people how to use it that have never programmed a day in their life. We can now use AI and they are building games, they are building mobile apps, they're building websites, and they can take this and they can take that 1 hour of the day for some of them that they can function and connect with others and go talk to businesses and, hey, can I build something for you? And then they go back and I help them build that. I say, the community, we do it together. It's like the three musketeers, all for one and one for all. We use AI, we talk about AI and the individual, but the goal is to enable the individual to have skills that are saleable so they can make themselves money. And if they want to work for a company instead of working for themselves, I walk them through how to use AI to improve their resumes, how to build a cover letter based on the resume and the job description, how to role play interview questions. So those are the two segments, the nonprofit side and the for-profit side.
And if we talk about the nonprofit side for a moment, because I see direct correlation to our audience and perhaps how Practical AI can partner with my audience. And so it's going to inform my next question, Derek, which is one, in your nonprofit work, do you currently work with educators in terms of support, like what they're telling you or that they can use when it comes to practical AI, i.e., helping students write cover letters or respond to interview questions? Do you work with many educators in this regard? And or how could my community of listeners perhaps help you with that if that's not something that you've established yet with practical AI?
Yeah, great question. I haven't isolated or identified whether they're educators or not. I think that if I can offer that help to the group here and there's a need for it, or you're already doing this and you'd like a greater audience or learn how to, if you'd like me to help you introduce AI into the process, all four, by all means, connect with me. I There's something else that I'm passionate about for in the educational system. And I want to say that I've never been a certified teacher at any level, but it seems the higher I get in life as in employment, and a lot of people talk about this, the higher level, the more money you make from a company. It's like I learned all kinds of opportunities that are there, and that's educational sector.
I lost you a little bit there, Derek, but you were just saying the higher you get in life and in companies, and then I lost you.
Okay, yeah. The typical process is the more money you make working for the man, working for a corporation, the less work you actually do. And I felt that same way. I worked a lot when I was young, and the higher levels I got allowed me time to step away. And I took that time to substitute teach at the local schools, even though I'm not certified. And what I saw there is it's really what brought me into education and AI is so many opportunities for teachers. You mentioned teachers, John, either at the beginning or pre-interview, and for the students themselves. So I know that life is about the haves and the have-nots. It's not necessarily by design, but economics turns it that way. So if it's the individual teacher or student or school system or district, some have more funds and resources than others. I can't help but imagine because the place that I live in the suburb of the big city, so mostly it's above average affluence. And I saw a lot of individual students that had caretakers that walked with them all day long. And I know that's not cheap, it's not free. And even if it was free, volunteers are not enough volunteers. So I just imagined in the world, what if we had enough people out there to, if they couldn't be in the same room, to answer a phone call with these earbuds in and says, hey, I'm having a rough day in third period. Can you help talk me through this? Or I'm having difficulty with my history class. Can you talk me through it? Or with my teacher or with fellow students. So just imagine this world where there is always someone to talk to, whether you're on the spectrum or you're not and just feeling lonely. And that's really the root cause of why I built my company and integrated the pieces of education and AI together, is to serve that community that just needs to bend somebody's ear.
I love that. And that actually leads me to ask this, Derek, which is, can you give teachers any practical advice on how they should be using AI with neurodivergent students? Let's look at, let's say, an elementary classroom, a middle school classroom, and a high school classroom, if you can talk to that.
Yes, absolutely. I'll prerequisite by saying that the New England Journal of Medicine ran research that individuals at all age levels are more inclined to speak to AI than they are a human when it comes to counseling, therapy, coaching. And there's greater success. The success is equal or higher. Don't be afraid to use it. By all means, use your best judgment and don't cross that. And of course, follow whatever guidelines are in school systems. But if you can find a knowledge base, and geniuswithin.org is a great resource for the neurodiverse. There's many resources out there, and I'm a board member for the project.org, which is out there. So I would say start with those resources that exist, and then you can take AI and you can connect it to that web page, that PDF, that report, and you can talk to AI just like you would a human, but one that is knowledgeable on that specific subject. And there's different ways to contain the information. In the wild, it's a little more tough to do, but it's not impossible. Notebook LM is a great resource. You can actually drag and drop PDFs into Notebook LM, which is a Google product. I believe if you go to notebooklm.google or notebooklm.google.com, I'm sure it's in use quite a bit already with our audience, but you can put in that information about autism, about dyslexia, dyspraxia. You can put that in there and just ask, just like I'm talking to you and you're talking to me. Ask the question and say, hey, I'm working with Lisa, an 11-year-old, and she's having some problems acclimating to the classroom. What do you suggest? How do I start? What are some questions of engagement? And the AI, when it's in contained information, because that's the most important part, contain that information into something where it's not looking out across the world and grabbing 17 different answers. And now we have this hallucination fear. But if you can focus it in a tool like Notebook LM and just have a conversation with the AI on how to have a one-on-one with a student or a parent teacher type of thing, you can converse that way. What I've done to make that easier is that I've added a voice interface. So there's a certain amount of disconnect when we're sitting here with our hands typing, asking a question, and then you have to deal with autocorrect and misspellings. And I didn't mean that. Let me rewrite it. It takes the emotion away. It takes the inertia away. So we're at this singularity point with AI where my company has built a voice interface that can make a live conversation. And if you say, oh, I made a mistake, I meant this, that's part of the conversation. And that's an important part of the conversation because it helps clarify the purpose and the goal of that conversation. We've taken that voice interface and attached it to a siloed amount of information to make that happen. And I would love to create some free tools out there for you as a teacher, for your school, and to dip your toe in the water to show you how valuable this is. And no charge for that. It's just something that I feel passionate about. It's got a flip-flop company. For every pair of sandals that they sold, they give a pair away. I thought, how great is that? I have my corporate clients that are out here and we make fair money. So if I can give away as well and exchange that knowledge, by all means, I'd love to make that happen.
So what I'm hearing from you, Derek, and I agree, and I really liked hearing it because it's a brave new world out there. And it is a world of information, and hopefully more people will have access to that information. But that's another conversation, the equity of AI. But what I liked, what I heard you saying was folks could take websites on neurodivergent learners, feed that into the AI, and then start using the AI as an educator to educate themselves on how to support neurodivergent students. And I love that potential use of AI because that will clearly benefit our neurodivergent students if our teachers know how to better embrace them. So I love that. I guess my follow-up question to that would be, Derek, and you've already mentioned that neurodivergent students could be using AI to almost as a buddy to talk to it, to help those internal processes, to organize their thoughts, which could be sometimes a struggle for neurodivergent students. Are there any other ways, in addition to that, that a neurodivergent student themselves could be using AI?
First of all, I want to point out a bit of divergent awareness for me. Some of my answers might start up here, then end up going really deep into a rabbit hole. That's just part of what I do sometimes. As far as the individual student, yeah, absolutely. They can use it to soundboard and build. It was said that Albert Einstein, Nikola Tesla was neurodivergent. And if they had more tools, there's different tools that are out there. Notebook LM is a great way to contain thoughts. So when I was in school, we always had at least one or two people in a classroom that would sit there that always doodle, that always journal, that always notebook, whether it's words, poems, comics, etc. And if they could do that in Notebook LM or ChatGPT Project is a level of ChatGPT that comes at the $20 a month level. I think there's a lot of $20 a month levels out there for AI, and Notebook LM is free. So I'd say start there. But anybody that is using AI, there's a lot of worth if you could, as a parent, fund that $20 a month for yourself and or your children to leverage increased tools within that AI. And those increased tools allow that compartmentalization of thought. So in Notebook LM, you can create different notebooks on different topics. And the individual student at any age can share all their thoughts. They can bring in PDFs, they can bring in websites, they can bring in YouTube videos, and they can talk to Notebook LM and say, tell me about this YouTube video. LM is very good at, let's say there's a PDF of the history textbook. And I don't know in your case or the audience case if that's in effect, but if you had that entire PDF and dropped it into Notebook LM And then you ask it questions like, hey, I'm on chapter 7. Can you tell me about this whole Christopher Columbus thing, how our thoughts have changed from 50 years ago to today, and who really discovered America? And Notebook LM will facilitate that. Two other cool things that Notebook LM does, John. One, you can just, with a click of a button, create a quick sheet or a data sheet or a study guide, and it will walk you through the high points of whatever your subject matter is, whether it be video, web page, or PDF. And there's also this function that Notebook LM has that you take all the information and then you click a button, and you know how you and I are doing a podcast right now. You click this button, Notebook LM creates a 2-person podcast discussing that information. So some of us just had trouble reading for a long time. I never finished a book in school, and I didn't know I was dyslexic. I had no idea. But if I could have turned that into an audio source, then it would have been like I had 2 mentors or 2 teachers talking to me. So those are just a few of the examples, John.
I love that really using AI to really help structure the learning, which is good for any student, really. But yet, really helping our neurodivergent students to engage in those conversations and to explore certain topics, but at the same time, to help focus them. Like you mentioned, having a study guide sheet that really will help a neurodivergent student just stay focused on what it is exactly they need to be looking at. What have you learned about AI use and neurodivergencies, Derek, in the last 2 years that you didn't originally know?
Perhaps the quality of the conversation, the quality of the results, the speed to get those results. I know a couple of years ago, we were talking about in schools, is my child using ChatGPT to write a report? Similar, when I was in school, I had this neat little Casio watch with the calculator on it. And they said, oh, and you can't use calculators for math. I know your last segment that I listened to was on the subject of math, but we were so scared of calculators in schools that we either outlawed them and banned them or we embraced them. But there was this hesitation point for half a decade or a decade. And when we got through it, it was like, you know what? If we understand that once we learn the basics, if we can use the calculator as a tool to get us to deeper problems, then our children could learn greater and deeper with using it as a tool. And I believe we're at the same place with AI, is that AI, we don't want it to do everything for us, but the speed to results by having those conversations with ourselves. I will go into ChatGPT projects, and I have a project that's just about my business. And I have another project that's just about family and family life. And on the business side, I'll go in there and I'll say, hey, I had this idea for a new application for Pocket Mentor. Can you help me work through this? Knowing everything you know about me, about my mission and vision, what does it look like? And just that, it will regurgitate my thoughts because I shared thoughts in the past, and it will put it into a format I'm looking at. I'm thinking, that's exactly how I would have sent that if I had 2 weeks to iterate and improve it. It ends up, that's exactly how I would say that. So I think it's a way to improve our own voice and improve our own words. In other aspects that I use, when I send an email to my team or send an email to a client, something that I need to watch my words and how I say them, I will take my phrasing and I'll just run it through either ChatGPT or Google Gemini. If you use Gmail, I'll say, rewrite this for me. And then it will come through and I go, yes, that's what I meant. And so it's allowing me to connect like a translator would with 2 different languages. If those of us that are neurodiverse, whether it's autistic, ADHD, whatever the realm, we're in our own mind so much that we get stuck on a word choice that we don't realize there's a thesaurus out there with other word choices. And AI just rephrases everything with more common and acceptable word choices, but it's still our voice. And I think that's really important. It's allowing us to express our voice, perhaps for the first time, because other people really didn't hear us or listen to us because we sounded different. So we're still getting that authenticity across, and it's better in the communication for everybody.
I'm so happy you said that, Derek, because I know that's a golden nugget right there from this episode, which is AI as a translator that allows neurodivergent people, really. This is a show for K-12 educators working with students. So clearly, AI can help their students to communicate better with others, with teachers, with other peers. But again, it's a translator. So I love that you said that. But I also love that you said, while still maintaining your voice, while still being true to you as the neurodivergent person. So I'm excited about where AI is going. I'm concerned in some ways, obviously, with it too. But in terms of its usefulness for helping to organize our thoughts, communicate our thoughts, generate thoughts, if used appropriately, is powerful for anybody. But you really helped me to see the connection of AI to neurodiversity. Again, not just differentiation in a classroom, whereas this student is above readiness on this objective and this student is below. What do we do to ensure that the students below readiness can get up to readiness? I'm very clear on that in terms of using AI as a tool. But you really helped me to see how it really can change lives by serving as that translator, particularly for people who have been silenced because they do approach things differently. Thank you for that, Derek. I appreciate that. Derek, what have we not talked about today that you want our listeners to know?
Piggybacking on that translation part, one of the things that we're trained to do as teachers, whether we're certified or not, as communicators, is to speak the language of the other person. So that would feed into that translation. And when we're introduced to somebody like, hey, this is little Timmy, and Timmy has autism. And if he hears certain words, he goes crazy. If he hears other words, he feels compassionate. So make sure that you use the right words with little Timmy. Have you ever had it been part of the conversation like that, John? Okay, now I think the AI, for this reason, is for the first time putting the whole world on alert that if we just talk to people in their own language, we're going to get a good conversation rather than chaos. So a couple of years ago, we started hearing about this thing with AI. Remember what it's called? Prompt engineering. And they said, if we ask the right questions, using the right words in the right way with AI, we can get the answers that we want and have good results. And I'm thinking, my gosh, AI, artificial intelligence, is AI, autistic individual. So the autistic individual, if we apply that prompt engineering concept, if we talking to Timmy or Jan or Lisa or Derek and say, hey, if we're using the right words with them, we're going to facilitate the right response. Everybody's happy. So I think AI, I give credit for putting a spotlight on that fact right there. It's prompt engineering. If everybody understands prompt engineering, it's going to increase communication for the world.
Love it. Derek, where can people find out more information about you and the work you do?
Certainly. I presume you'll have a link or something next to the post, but they can look at my name. I'm on LinkedIn. My business website, which also has my nonprofit link to it, is practicalai.app. So that's practicalai.app, Apple, Paul. And you can find me at either location. And I look forward to having questions and being able to respond because this is really learning, teaching, education is really at the heart of my life right now. And I think we're all in this together. So I look forward to responding and having some good, insightful conversations, John. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to share.
And thank you for being on the show. And I will, Derek, link in the show notes to not only Practical AI and you and your LinkedIn profile, but also to some of those other neurodivergent websites and resources that you mentioned, because I do believe that they will be extremely helpful for educators working with neurodivergent students, whether they're using AI with those students or not, just being able to better understand our neurodivergent learners. And yes, I hope if people have questions about how to use AI with neurodivergent students, that they reach out to you, given your expertise in this area. So, Derek, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, John. It's been a pleasure. And everybody have a great week.
Thank you for listening today. I hope you got some great tips that you can bring back into your teaching. Remember, have a life teaching without sacrificing your own. Also, don't forget to subscribe and be well.